many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how.
What's the Drake and Josh intro?
It's gonna take some time to realign. But if you look inside, I'm sure you'll find. Hold on, get a big breath for this part. Over your shoulder, you know that I told you I'll always be picking you up when you're down. So just turn around.
And
Welcome in, everybody.
this is Out the Window.
Out the Window, episode 3.
And
now.
we are funTimeZaHead.
We are the group known as funTimeZaHead.
So, to kick us off here, you guys got to live in a TV show for a week. You got to survive. You're going about your day, doing about what the main characters are doing. But you get to pick the TV show. Which one are you going with?
I didn't think hard enough about this. When do you go?
You know, SpongeBob would be kind of wild. That'd be a fever dream right there. You get to be a fish. You know, you get to be different. It's a cartoon world, so just magical shit happens to you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, legitimately, if SpongeBob and Patrick are your friends, you're having the funnest time every day.
Yeah.
Economically speaking, I don't know how any of that shit works. Pretty much everybody lives at the same pay scale.
Yeah, he's like he works at a fast food restaurant and he like has his own house and shit.
It is, and SpongeBob, they're at work, but they're never really working. Like, you know, they're kind of just hanging out, but at their job.
Yeah, there's like never any customers until there's like an episode where there's all the customers.
And you don't put the pickles on the burger.
Yeah. No, SpongeBob's a good pick.
I do SpongeBob.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool places to hang out, man. The Salty Splatoon. How tough are you, by the way?
Weenie Hut Jr.
Oh, okay. Straight up Weenie, not even going to try. Would you be able to get into the Salty Splatoon? How tough are you?
SpongeBob got in. You know, he faked it, but SpongeBob did get in.
I need to eat my
I
bowl of
feel
nails with milk. I can't do it without milk.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like I could get in on a good day, but most of the time I'm more of a Weenie Hut. And I don't want to admit that, but I will.
Yeah. We're all a little Weenie Hut, you know. Everybody's got a little Weenie Hut in them.
Now, Weenie Hut Jr. or what's the place from the movie? Goofy Goober?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd have a blast there.
I am a Goofy Goober, yeah. It's a good-ass song.
That's-
It's such a bomb.
That's kind of what raves are like. There's not a big difference between being at a real-life rave and the Goofy Goober
Being
show.
a Goofy Goober.
It's just fun all the time.
I feel like you guys know way more about SpongeBob
Oh, yeah.
than I do.
That doesn't make any sense. We were all born at the same
No,
generation.
I know. I watched it all, but like I've seen the SpongeBob movie maybe once, so.
Oh, that's a travesty right there.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters. It was a good time.
He's in theaters?
With David Hasselhoff?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm a Goofy Goober. Anyway, point is yes, dude. It was called the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. What, you thought it was on Nick? No. It was in theaters, my
Well,
guy.
no, I had it on DVD, so I didn't really know.
If we're doing kids shows, I think Codename Kid Next Door could be dope.
Fuck.
Oh, no. That's the best pick.
Well,
You just make inventions and, like, you know, assemble a big drill car and just drill through the earth.
You just hang out with your friends all day. Just doing cool shit.
yeah, you're like actually a secret agent and stuff. The problem is even though they had like a small little unit of people 13 plus, you're not a part of the Kids Next Door anymore. You're not a part of any missions once you become a teenager.
You're
a villain by that point. You're just becoming an adult.
I'd say you're in that age group. You're in the kid age group for it.
That's better. It still has a shelf life though.
What about Foster's Home for imaginary friends?
Oh, yeah. That could be nice. Are you the imaginary friend, or do you get to think up things that suddenly exist?
Ooh. Good point.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? Being one of the imaginary friends just seemed like a lot of fun, though. Like, they're just in a big
Dude.
house hanging out together.
Do they have free will? Or are they like clones?
I don't want to think about that.
I think like they have free will, but they're confined to that house. They're not. They have no. They have no rights, so they have to stay there, and or they have to be like forcibly put someplace. Like whenever kids in that universe, the lore is that kids imagine imaginary friends, and then they have to be put someplace else. It's like they get too old for them. Or like the parents just don't want to deal with them anymore, so they put them in that house.
Is it a psych ward?
I would see it more like what's something that where it's something ages out and then it has to like go away.
Like My Little Pony? If you're 8 and you like My Little Pony, okay, but if you're 32 and you like My Little Pony, that's creepy.
Legos, it only goes to 99.
Yeah.
If you're over 99, you can't play with Legos anymore.
Is that a real thing?
On the box, it goes like, I think it goes like 6 to 99 or something.
Yep.
Nice.
Jimmy Carter, he can't play with Legos anymore.
Didn't he die?
Poor guy. No, he's still alive.
Oh,
He's kicking it.
Yeah. What's better though, like not being like just created into a world and not having any rights, or living in a world where you have rights and they get taken away from you over time?
Well, that's a depressing way to lead into
Leading
politics.
into
We had fun for a while, but an amazing transition into the world we live in today.
Well, yeah, we can get into some of this if you guys are ready.
Yeah. Shoot.
First, I'll just lead with the easy stuff. Trump announced a bunch of his cabinet picks, and they surprisingly started out hilarious in like a good way, in that he ran this super populist campaign and then just picked the most like milquetoast neocon like basic conservative people to fill these spots. They're not good people, of course, but they go against like everything he kind of talked about on his campaign trail. So I saw a lot of conservatives like bitching about these two.
Oh, what? You're not super extreme. They're not super extreme. They're not fucking Nazis.
Well, we'll get into the Nazis. But
How long are they going to last?
yeah, that's the other question. But he picked Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State.
The comeback of Marco Rubio is upon us.
Yes. But Marco Rubio is a huge neocon who's like called for war with a bunch of other countries. Now I can't remember if it was him or not, but I'm pretty sure he was calling for like U.S. troops to be in Ukraine. Like he wants us actively involved in Ukraine.
On Russia's side.
No.
On Ukraine's side?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so like he's like all about war. He like wants us involved in every war. But completely goes against Trump's whole anti-war campaign he run. So right away, that was like one of his first picks. So you're like, wait, what is going on here? And Secretary of State's like, you know, the biggest cabinet position. In other, Mike Huckabee, father of Sarah, is her name? Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yep. Her dad was announced as ambassador to Israel. Another neocon, loves Israel. He like literally doesn't believe the West Bank is like a thing. He like thinks the West Bank is Israel's. Like Israel has every right to the West Bank. So that's gonna be good over in Israel. Yeah. So all that talk of I saw a lot of leftists saying, "Oh, Trump is he's gonna do the exact same stuff Biden's doing in Israel." No, it's gonna get worse.
Far worse.
It's gonna be worse.
I've seen that, and that is a legit point, and it is like following up on things that happened a week ago. But it is another instance of like Democrats dunking on Democrats, which I don't feel like gets us anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of I don't know. It's holding. It's accountability, but it's also just infighting. So,
Yeah. Well, and the problem with that infighting is it led to people not voting for Harris because they're like both sides are the same kind of thing, and then you see now they're not the same.
Yeah.
So the issue you cared about the most now, and which a lot of people cared about the most, they're not the same, and it was shown within a day or two of him like being announced the president-elect.
mm-hmm.
But now if we start getting into some of these meme picks, those were the standard picks. Then I believe the next one, this one is Vivek and Elon were appointed to a new cabinet position called, I can't even remember it.
The Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes.
Because the acronym is Doge.
Yep, that's all I have written down here is just Doge.
Which...
These are real things that are happening.
Yes.
At its very core, it's like there's too much government inefficiency. There's too many departments. Let's make one more.
And these other departments aren't efficient. They have one head. Let's give this one two. So they're proposing to cut down. I think there's like 400 something government
agencies.
Yeah, agencies.
To 99.
Yeah, they want to cut it down to 99.
Why? Why some arbitrary ass number like 99?
Because
do they
stupid.
think these are Legos?
The problem.
See what you did there.
What I see a lot of, honestly, it's a lot of conservatives listen to Vivek and Elon talk about stuff, and they think they're intelligent when they say stuff like we're going to cut it to 99, but it's just arbitrary. Like you said, there's no meaning behind it. There's no reasoning. They see a big number make smaller number. Good.
That pseudo-intellectualism is going to be the death of us in this country. People who just sound smart, quote unquote, but say a lot of things that aren't factually true, aren't factually backed up with any empirical evidence, but yet they use big words, or they have big platforms, or they wear suits, and so you just assume that they're right. But as my father has always said to me since I was a kid, legitimately, just because someone's on TV, don't assume that they know more than you or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the key thing is this: you got your Jordan Petersons, you've got him as a key pseudo-intellectual, right? You've got a Vivek, you've got I almost don't even want to platform these people type of thing. I almost don't even want to say their names.
We're platforming them.
He who shall not be named.
Your Michael Knowleses and shit that. Like they sound like they got a decent handle on things and speaking about it. But when you peel it back, that's why we always encourage people to do their own work. Do their own research, right? And now they say do your own research, but they really just want you to look at conspiracy theories, right? Oh, don't believe in the vaccines and shit like that. Do your own research about that shit. No. True intellectualism is actually inviting a different pathway forward, but also isn't negatively bringing us backwards. You know what I mean? We're always striving towards social progression, right? That's the natural order of things because we're human beings. We're always evolving towards a certain point.
Ideally.
The resistance of that, yes, ideally speaking, the resistance of that is what you get from certain people that want to see things from a certain lens of the past, but try to basically smooth it out like it's a new thing of the future, but it's really not.
With pseudo-intellectualism, have you guys seen Trump's 10 points on education?
I watched a clip of it, but I didn't read the whole thing.
I've gone through it a couple times. I went through it with my principal. She had not read it yet, and it involved her position becoming an elected position in the near future. But I've gone through it a couple times now, and it stood out to me the last time that it's all written below a 5th grade reading level.
Yeah.
The lexile level is low, which I've seen that point made before, that the Republican messaging is so much more accessible if you are less literate, or there's not that barrier to understanding it, which I think there is some validity in that if you don't have the best reading comprehension, then the Democratic messaging is not going to make sense. But
sometimes, yeah.
It was at a low level, but it doesn't scream that they're talking down to you. It's in a lane where they're explaining what basic terms are, but it doesn't sound like they're talking to a child. There's there's that middle road where it's not assuming you understand what any big words mean and explaining them, but not making it stand out, not making a big deal out of it.
There's a level of yes, things, higher accessibility with more simplistic, plot points and just words or phrases and things like that, which kind of goes into our last conversation from a week ago when I was talking about messaging and changing that up, right? The key thing is not everything can be undetailed, right? Because Yeah, the bottom line is like we're human, we're grown adults, right? There has to be detail, there has to be more nuance to things. But yes, in terms of just overall messaging, how you sell things, more simplistic typically wins out because yes, it hits the broadest scope of people. No one wants to get into the true details on immigration, right?
What actually is a tariff?
Exactly, stuff like that. But that's why I kind of put it back into our education, right? What we talk about at that level. I wish modern education would go even further down the line of being even more progressive with just the dialogue on how we speak about things. And when you change education, it also changes our culture. You know, they both influence the other, right? I wish our culture would change so much on how we speak about certain aspects of our lives and just general scope. Doesn't even have to be politics, right? Add more nuance, not less.
Just what's normalized, what's stigmatized.
I happened to be at a bar last night and I was speaking to somebody and we got into kind of politics for just a small bit of time. And I used to have more conversations about these sorts of things, say a few years ago when I had more like emotional bandwidth to do so, about just like whether it be gender roles and gender politics and gender dynamics. And, you know, you have enough of these conversations and you kind of already can see just on what somebody says on the outskirts of it in the beginning stages, kind of where they align with stuff, right? He very much took sort of the approach of like, why does it feel like it's white males that are being feeling targeted, like we're the source of all the problems in the world and all that. And I was like, well, let's break it down a little bit more. So let's get more into the root causes and the details, right? This is that assault on truth and objective truths that we talked about last week that I'm so afraid of in terms of education, right? I was like, objectively speaking, who's caused the most harm to the most people in terms of the formulation of this country through to this point, right? Objectively speaking, we're talking about like white males. That doesn't mean you specifically. That doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to explain that. Like, we can acknowledge the past. We can acknowledge how we got here. You don't have to personally take that on and take offense to that.
Yeah.
I'm a guy. Every time a woman says men are trash, you think I'm sitting there being like, but we're not though, or all women are hoes. That's some fragile masculinity right there, and I don't fuck with that. So,
yeah, no. To kind of get back into the like arbitrarity and stuff of like what they're trying to do to all these other government or agencies. Vivek more specifically went into how they're going to cut some of these, and it got so stupid to the point where he was saying if you have an even number at the end of your social security number, you're fired. And then he said and then we're going to look at everybody who still is left and has an odd number at the end of their social security number. And he goes down this long list. I think he said something like, we have you take like an IQ test and then we test for all the top IQs. And then he's like, and then that way we're left with just the top 1% of like everybody who's like left. And it's like the most like archaic, like nonsensical answer. And I saw that clip on Twitter and the title said exactly what we've been talking about. Like, this probably sounds very smart to like dumb people. Like, and it's just nonsense. It's people that work in these government agencies have usually been there for a long time. And I know for some people that sounds bad, but that's usually a very good thing. That means they're like accustomed to how things function and how things work there.
It seems backwards. It feels like they're starting with let's cut out a bunch of stuff and then figuring out what they're going to cut out. When you should look into it like, what do we need to cut out, and then cut that out. Like, it's like deciding we need this certain amount of people gone and figuring out later who that is instead of just looking at what's going on.
Well, and not to mention, most of these agencies are actually like under budgeted. They're actually understaffed. Like, they're usually don't have enough employees. The Department of Education, for one, I saw people breaking it down, like what's going to happen if you cut into that. And it was like for any disabled children, all of that funding comes from the Department of Education. It has nothing to do with local property taxes. It's all from the federal government. And that's just gone now. So ramps in schools, any chairs, anything like that.
And we're already really low on special education teachers, and that will just further make that worse.
Yep. So it just nonsense. But The best part about this whole thing is that Vivek and Elon have been talking about it like it's this big thing. They're going to do a bunch of stuff. To a lot of people, though, it kind of reads as like a meme position. Like they just got a position to like just like, yeah, go like
Surface level at best.
Yeah, that they're not actually going to do anything or be able to do anything. I believe in the post they made, it also said that those two are only going to be the heads of it for like 2 years too. So like it's already written in the contract that they're only there for like 2 years. So, and honestly though, a guy like Elon Musk, he's the world's richest man. Is he going to be work in a government agency for the rest of his life? Of course not. Like. It was always going to be this way. We can get into this later. I still got a couple more picks to go through, but reports are that Trump is already tired of Elon hanging around Mar-a-Lago. He's been there like every day since the election, and Trump's already like, it's like leaked out that he's like tired of him like hanging around, and of course, like that's just how Trump is. But he gave some speech too, and he was like, "Yeah, we can't get rid of the guy," and like just said it out loud. It's funny.
Just stabbed in the back immediately.
Yep.
What are the odds by the end of the 2 years the government agencies are less efficient than when they started?
Probably guaranteed.
99.999%.
Well, and that goes into some of these other ones. I'll get to that one last because that's probably the one we can talk about the most.
What's our next pick?
So Tulsi Gabbard to National Security Intelligence.
I'm not familiar with them as much.
She was a Democrat, like a leading Democrat. Was it 2016? She was like out of the progressive wing, and now she's just gone like full, right wing ship. She's a grifter. That's just all she is. The problem though, she is a Russian asset, like legitimately a Russian asset, and she is now in head of the National Security Intelligence Agency. Yep. I don't remember if her stuff got leaked when all the other like right-wing influencer stuff got leaked. The Tenet Media, I think hers was a little before, but so another just outstanding pick. This is where the picks start getting like, where it's like, oh, this is actually really bad. So Matt Gaetz to Attorney General.
That's the only one I did hear about.
Yeah. Just meme pick all the way. Like no qualifications. The only
sexual predator.
Yes, like actual human trafficker. The only thing I've seen for this to be like potential, not like a legitimate pick, but for why Trump might have done it, is that Matt Gaetz is like super loyal to him, but that essentially House like committee was running a investigation into Matt Gaetz human trafficking stuff, and that report was about to come out. So the rumor is that Trump had him do this, and Matt Gaetz already resigned from Congress, essentially to end that investigation so that it wouldn't come to light. That investigation is most likely going to leak at some point, though, because it was basically done. I think it was coming out in the next week or two, so it's gonna leak. But now he doesn't have to face any repercussions of that because he's outside of Congress. But so, and then in that scenario, he won't be the Attorney General for long. But in the other scenario where he stays Attorney General, the rationale is that he's just super loyal to Trump. He'll just prosecute anybody that Trump tells him to. But again, no qualifications at all for the position.
Who is the other person that they're trying to waive the background check for? I know Matt Gaetz is one of them, and I saw it was another person.
Well, they don't want background checks on any of these people. They're trying to get them all through. That's the other big thing is he's trying to get Congress or the Senate out of committee so that he can just get these people through without having them confirmed by the Senate. And there's only one reason to do that, and it's to get out of the background check stuff so that they don't get questioned in front of the entire, U.S. media. But because they have the Senate, all these people are going to be approved. The only one who might not is Matt Gaetz, and that's because some Republicans don't like him. But everyone else is going through for sure.
Even if they are questioned, in Trump's last term, the Supreme Court picks, Weren't they putting through a similar interview, and they answered that that they would protect abortion rights
Yeah.
and everything, and then that just went out the
Yeah.
window. So even if they do get interviewed, are they held to that in any sort of
No.
way? Oh,
You just lie on the stand and get away with it.
and face no repercussions. So it's trying to get snuck through, but even if we go through the proper channels, there's no guarantee with
Yeah.
that either.
It's basically just because in some sense at least heads of like cabinet picks are a little more susceptible to like media pressure and stuff because, you know, the president gets elected and the president directly controls who these people are. We don't for the Supreme Court. So like those people are just there forever. But at least with cabinet members, there's like a little bit of, you know, democracy to that. So that's Matt Gaetz. There's just one left that I have written down here. That's RFK Jr. to the
I heard
HHS.
people are measles is about to make a comeback out of nowhere. It
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah.
COVID might actually spike and rise too. You got an anti-vaxxer is leading all of your health
Yep.
department.
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of people talk about how there are some things that RFK has proposed where it's like that's actually a good thing. That's like a good idea. That's solid. But then it leads into like 5 other things where you're like, please don't do that. But talking about like getting like chemicals out of the food and stuff, trying to limit like herbicides and fertilizers and stuff that we use on our food, all good stuff. No one's ever going to complain about that kind of stuff.
But how you gonna go about doing that exactly?
Yeah, that's the other part. And what do you really replace some of this stuff with too? But the other thing is he's talking about like specific chemicals that might get added to foods. The big one he always talks about is like yellow dye. And I haven't like looked into it a bunch, but from what I've heard, it's actually not like dangerous at all.
Like an MSG situation.
Yeah. And all the studies that have like people will like link to show you that it's dangerous are like very inconclusive. There's like more studies that show that it's not. So it's all just kind of nonsense stuff. The real thing that we need to get out of food is like why am I blanking on it?
Corn syrup, high fructose.
Yeah, high fructose corn syrup. That's the real stuff we need to get out of food. We just put that in everything. It's in everything you eat or drink at this point.
I think if we use significantly less high fructose corn syrup, that have significant effects on America because we grow a whole bunch of that corn that you use to make it, and that's subsidized. So
the problem though is that it's like a self-feeding cycle because we started producing so much corn that farmers weren't able to sell it because for any profit. So then the government was like, well, we'll just buy it. We'll subsidize this corn. And then the government's like, well, what can we do with it? Oh, let's make ethanol or let's do high fructose corn syrup.
Not to say that we shouldn't use less of it, but we'd want to carefully go down that route and like want to slowly phase it out and think ahead, which should I trust RFK Jr. to do so?
Exactly. Because with that comes obviously all the anti-vax stuff. It also brings about he's trying to remove fluoride from the water. And there's been a bunch of studies on that showing like, no, fluoride's actually like really good in the water for us.
That's been a bit of a boogeyman for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. That's like an old one though. That was like 10 years ago where people were like, they're putting fluoride in the water.
Is that your like old school Republican?
That's
voice?
Alex Jones.
Oh, that's just straight up Alex
That was
Jones.
Alex Jones.
Is that what makes frogs
Shout
gay?
out.
Yeah.
That is what makes frogs gay?
Yeah.
Did you hear about the onion thing, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, that was like literally probably the best outcome for the InfoWars. Just the Onion buying it.
That's where we're at. The best news coming out is what satirical news stations have done.
Yep.
I feel like with all of those cabinet picks, it's like, you know, all the stories of when a new manager gets brought into a job that doesn't know what they're doing, and then like people just like maliciously comply with them and it blows up in their face. We just have multiple new managers brought in who don't know what the fuck they're doing but have a lot of strong ideas, and we get to watch that play out with all of them coming up here.
Yep. That is the perfect example. That was some of the lighter stuff. Another little interesting thing. This doesn't really lead into anything, but just some information I learned about. Doesn't really, matter, but has to do with immigration. Mexico currently blockades migration to the U.S. and takes in migrants that want to go to the U.S. So basically, part of the reason why the immigration numbers have dropped under Biden is because of this. Biden worked out a deal with Mexico. The problem is that if Trump ruins relations with Mexico, which he's been super hostile to for a long time,
better part of a decade.
Yeah, it'll that ends. So we could enter like a new migration influx here. But again, it won't matter under a Trump presidency because it'll just be like, oh, it's not that bad.
And a lot of the Latin American immigration we're seeing isn't really from Mexico. It's from Central American countries right now.
Yeah.
Want to elaborate more on that?
I mean, like Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, even down into like Colombia and the upper part of South America. That's where a lot of these, a lot of them are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see, at least here, we don't see a whole lot of Mexican immigrants, despite what uninformed people would think.
Yeah.
Like,
Do they migrate into the same area of America, like when they come in, though?
there's typically, I mean, I always think about it. Imagine if you had an aunt and an uncle that lived in Japan. Like, they moved to Japan a couple of years ago. They're at the northern part of Japan. They're settled in. They got jobs. They got a house. If you decide to move to Japan, what part of Japan are you moving to? You're starting out with them, They got some roots put in. They know how things work there. You'd at least start out, maybe you wouldn't stay there, but your first year or two, you would be in the same city that your aunt and uncle are in.
Right.
That same effect happens in the U.S. If you have family members or people you know or some sort of connections, it just makes logical sense to at least start out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, what this blockade was actually migrants that were passing through Mexico trying to get to the U.S. and Mexico was just like, no, you can stay here. That was like the whole thing was essentially they're taking in migrants that didn't actually want to go to Mexico.
I mean, make your own choices, but I don't think that's the worst outcome.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, Mexico actually has like a very progressive president right now.
It's a woman.
Yeah.
Not that inherently means progressive, but
Yeah.
it's more progressive than where we're at in America.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she implemented a bunch of like policies post-COVID that has them on like a really good economic trajectory right now. So yeah, no, it's actually not like a terrible thing. Plus, Mexico did have a massive migration crisis.
Cameron, are you saying that if we, bring in female leadership, women leadership, they can kind of change the game in terms of where nations go? Are you saying that women can be, hugely successful?
The power of feminism.
World leaders? Yes.
No, I don't think that. No. If the Hillary and Kamala, sorry, elections taught us anything, it's that no, women aren't allowed to be leaders in the U.S.
Well, in other countries, it's not such a crazy idea.
Oh no, it's been a
women
thing
as
for
heads
a long
of state
time.
is very common throughout most of the world.
No, the only other thing that got kind of leaked this week was from Pod Save America, and they essentially leaked.
Shout out to Pod Save.
No.
Check them out if you haven't seen them.
No.
No.
Wait, no?
No.
I've never watched it.
they heel turn, and you're like, check them out. I've never seen them.
Basically, I've heard good things about them. They're on the liberal side.
Yeah, they're all former, like they used to be
Obama
on the,
staffers.
Yeah.
They got some good intentions.
Some speech writers, former speech writers.
They're like Dems. They're gonna ride with Democrats.
One of them is literally named Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Like dead ass, as in the director and actor.
The same guy?
No.
Oh,
His
okay,
name is
okay.
just also Jon
Yeah.
Favreau of all
Trips
time.
me out on Twitter all the time. I'm like, man, he is really out there.
Jon Favreau is big.
Yeah, but they're not based for this.
Oh no.
So they leaked this info themselves, but basically they announced that while Biden was still the running for president, his camp had info that he was losing in the polls a 400 electoral vote loss. So, and they had this info for one. We can get into this in a minute, but essentially a 400 electoral vote loss means Dems lose all the swing states, of course. They also lose New York. They lose Illinois. They lose basically everything outside of, like, I saw a map of it. It was like California, Washington, and like one other state. Like, that was it.
So they knew that info when Biden was still running.
And he kept running afterwards. This was the whole point of the Pod Save America thing, was that he kept running. He thought he could fix that.
So Pod Save America had that information. They gave it to Biden, or like
No, they got leaked that info, like from the Biden camp.
And Joe kept running.
Yeah, but the problem with Pod Save America is that they just leaked it now. They didn't say anything about this before, and it's like that would have been like good info to have, you know, when Biden's in the middle of his campaign and he's facing a huge loss that no one really knew was going to be that bad.
Here's all that we really need to know, though. At what point did they find out that information? Like, how long, and do we know how long Joe had?
It was before the debate.
That's what I'm getting at. Do we know how long Joe had that information?
It was before the debate, at bare minimum. I don't have specifics, but it was before the debate happened.
Here's what I'm getting at, just playing devil's advocate even a little bit. Like, there's that avenue of what's the point? There's still so much time out. What's the point of even with this? What's the point of leaking this right now? You know what I mean? And then obviously things turned for the worse after the first debate, which legitimately was like the final straw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, what you know? I mean, it would only stand to be negative, I guess, in a way, possibly negative publicity or whatever.
Well, in honesty, they could have leaked it and then pushed for change sooner, because that's the whole issue. Is Democrats didn't get to run a primary during this campaign. Primary is where you build your campaign. You build what you're going to run on. It's where you build constituency and all the swing states and stuff like that. And we didn't get to have that because Biden dropped out so late. Now, we don't know how early this was, but if it was like 3 months ahead of time, could have been a quick primary. If we had like a 6-week primary or something, that's way better than what we ended up getting.
Who do you think would have?
No idea. You know, that's that.
You think Bernie would have ran?
No idea, to be honest. But it kind of doesn't matter. Just whoever wins the primary, just fucking go. You know, essentially we got the most right-wing Democratic candidate we've had in how long? Even Hillary Clinton kind of ran to the left on most issues that Harris did.
Again, for me, it was two things it's been enough time that I can at least speak on this a little bit. But, you know, for me personally, the true two things that kind of did it in was not diversing yourself enough away from Biden in terms of, you know, like really any policies that were negative on his end. Obviously, number one, Israel, Gaza.
Yeah.
Right? You secure the young vote. You secure basically every Zoomer and young millennial. You secure everyone of our generation and slightly below us by basically saying, I am going to do something different with this. I'm going to, you know, protect the Palestinian people. All of that, right?
Or at least a neutral stance. Like,
yeah.
Correct. That her just unrelenting from him in any way like that was a key thing that I thought was, you know, a signal of sign of what could possibly come. And then also the other big one for me was just the center right shift. I want to say 2/3 of the way through the campaign, maybe just halfway through the campaign, of like really trying to get those center right Republican voters who were tired of Trump for the last 9 years and, you know, campaigning with Liz Cheney and everything else. And it's like, you're going the wrong direction. You're going the wrong route. Yeah. And I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think the stats bear it out that even though Republicans don't like, plenty of Republicans don't like Trump and they're tired of him, they still kind of just voted Republican anyway.
Well,
so
Republicans,
it didn't even work.
Yeah, Republicans also don't like the Cheneys either. So it's like
exactly, like who are you winning over?
Yeah.
Like what? Like I mean, I don't know if you mentioned it last week, but truly, like, I was getting, I was getting progressively more annoyed by the end of that campaign, because it's like, what are we doing right now? Like, she fully committed to, like, yeah, I'm gonna have a Republican on my cabinet and stuff like that, like a part of my administration. It's like, if any of us wanted a Republican in office, you'd vote for a fucking Republican. You literally opened up this campaign on the back of Tim Walz's viral comments saying Republicans are weird.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you're like, no, we're all good people. Like, she went the full Biden route of Biden saying, like, there's Republicans and then there's Trump Republicans. No, motherfucker, there's really just Republicans.
Yeah.
At this point, it doesn't matter. Like, you're all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
You may not think the same way, but you vote the same way, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But with that Biden info, there were a couple like interesting things that also came out with it, and some other like stuff to elaborate on. So showing a huge blowout loss. Pelosi apparently was arguing behind the scenes that she wanted a primary to take place because she did not want Harris to run. So Pelosi wanted like a legit primary to take place, and was basically arguing with Biden behind the scenes for like, it's kind of implied that it was over like the course of weeks to drop out before you.
Well, we knew there was infighting between them to drop out,
but it all kind of happened after the debate. Is when we all became aware of it, but this all was taking place before the debate, so this all would have, given enough lead time to lead into a primary. Nancy
Pelosi, of all people, trying to save democracy out here in ways we didn't know about.
I have a huge disdain for Pelosi's politics, but her political instincts are like off the charts. She's like right all the time whenever it comes to stuff like this. She's always behind the scenes, like just like her political instincts are just really good. She's a good politician. Her politics suck, but so she wanted to have a primary, did not want Harris to be the candidate. She was apparently very clear about that.
Do you notice that he's saying Harris now because he can't get Kamala
right? I can't ever pronounce it right. But then what happened was she wanted this primary and was also trying to get Biden to drop out. Biden ends up dropping out, immediately endorses Harris.
So it's all a political play, power move.
Well, Biden, the thought is that he felt a little betrayed and that he just wanted to undercut the party and nominate Harris because his endorsement is basically like, yeah, she's next up. So it's kind of that Biden kind of did it. Biden kind of fucked us all over.
Can we ever expect a true primary, or is it always going to be like the Grammys where like there's a vote for show and then they just pick the person they want to win?
That is the shitty part about it. Yeah.
I saw a meme about the Grammy nominations recently, the most recent ones, and legitimately someone was like, Taylor Swift could just fart into a mic for about 45 minutes and they'd give it Album of the Year.
From the vault.
Yeah, no, so ever since this big loss, the DNC chair spoke out about it, and he was talking about how it's the left's fault for the losing the election.
As the progressives? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing. Think about this: if Republicans had this loss, all of them are fired. They're all gone. Like, the chair has to step down. The RNC chair would have to step down. His campaign managers would have to.
No one's going anywhere right
Nobody's resigned, nothing. Like, they're all going to be a part of the apparatus next time around, too.
And what are the odds they double down on what they just tried?
Yeah, 100%. It drives me crazy because this happened with Hillary. Hillary loses, and they all make excuses. She's too left. The country won't elect a woman. Like, all these things. And then Biden wins in, like, kind of a big blowout, at least popular vote-wise. Swing states, it was pretty close. But regardless, he gets 81 million votes. And they take that as, oh, the country's past Trump. They're past him. And it's like, no. They just wanted, like, a little reprieve out of COVID. They just wanted, they were tired of the day-to-day politics stuff. But now we haven't had that for 4 years. People don't really remember. And now Trump's back again. He's promising change again. Biden wasn't a change candidate. Yeah.
Ultimately, the change candidate thing. If she had ran off a more progressive viewpoint and distanced herself from Joe, you could have sealed it. I mean, it's straight up the ultimate version of Monday morning quarterback. But even still, you know, what are you really going to learn from all of this, right? Or are you just going to be stubborn and blame the same people again and again and not really look inward and self-reflect?
Yeah.
So
that is the scary thing, is that they look to be like they're going to go right back down this same road again. Because, I mean, they did it with this whole campaign. They ran right on every issue, basically. The only thing that I remember from the campaign being like very left wing was the expansion of like Medicare and Medicaid. They were going to use that to cover like in-home costs for elderly people.
I feel like that's still like a tried and true campaign point. Like that's
100%. It would have been a huge expansion though. It would have been like billions of dollars. Like in-home care is expensive as shit. But yeah, and otherwise like there were good stuff, of course, like the house credits, the tax credits and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it wasn't progressive enough. That's pretty much all I got written down over here.
Yeah, I think we could talk politics all day, and we would. What are we looking at next?
You had a pretty interesting interaction recently.
I did have something happen today. Let's see. So, it's an ex. There was a person I dated for 3-4 years, a good while. We broke up 2 years ago, and it's been radio silence since then. Like no contact, no communication whatsoever. So 2 years have gone by, and this morning I get a letter in the mail from this person, breaking all those years of silence. And there wasn't anything super groundbreaking, anything super revolutionary in the letter, but it definitely was that, like, you know, that chapter has been closed for a long time and like just got opened back up. It seemed like hopeful. Like, if I had to say if they wanted a relationship again, it leaned yes, and I'm not sure where I stand on wanting a relationship again. I'd say I lean slightly no. I don't have any bad feelings towards this person. Like, they're not, like, dead to me or anything, but I don't know. I'm kind of I do want to respond, and I could have sat down and wrote a letter back in the moment, but I kind of wanted to sit on it for a minute and, like, you know, collect my thoughts.
This is your response.
And
we're going to send this to them.
I don't know. I'm definitely friendly towards this person, but I don't want to... I'm not ready to, like, move 2 hours away and give it another shot. You know, I'm not doing that tonight, so... I don't know. I gotta get my thoughts together to respond to them, and... I don't know, toe that line between I still got respect for you, you know, I don't hate you, but I don't want to lead you on from the get-go if, you know, I don't think we need to start a whole adventure of like rekindling it completely.
It is. How do you feel about it? Like just getting reached out to kind of out of nowhere. Did you ever expect that to happen, I should say?
So, in general, with all my relationships, I never get closure on them. I kind of just put them out of sight, out of mind, and like bottle it up and never revisit it again. It's an issue I've recognized in my life, is that there's never any like ending, or I don't know, it just kind of ends. That's it. It's done. In the past, ignore it, forget about it. There've been a few times that things came up that reminded me of them. There's a friend from college who still hangs out with them. And on Instagram, they'd put some pictures. They do, like, amateur photography. They'd taken some pictures, and I don't go on Instagram much, but I opened it up, and I saw them, and I'm like, oh, these are nice pictures. And so I like the post, and I start scrolling through them. And I got embarrassingly far into it before I realized this was the house that me and this person lived in for, like, a year. And... there were other similar situations where I just stumbled upon, you know, something that reminded me of them. And I had like a strong emotional reaction to it. I don't know exactly what it was. It wasn't 100% negative, and it wasn't 100% positive. I think it just kind of comes from the fact that I have not addressed that breakup at all. I just kind of carried on and like looked forward, didn't look back. I didn't get that same feeling with this letter. With directly reaching out to me, it didn't hit the same as happening to stumble upon something that brought that back up.
So first off, a letter in 2000 in the year of our Lord 2024.
I don't know the last time I received a letter. I maybe never written a letter to someone in my life. Like when I replied to this may be the first handwritten letter I sent to anybody.
I wrote a letter to my best friend when I was a kid because my mom grounded me from my phone. I didn't have a stamp. I just put it in the mail. It didn't go anywhere.
Please tell me it started with, I hope this email finds you well. Or I hope this mail finds you well, this letter.
It wasn't too different from that.
Okay, so that's one thing. Also, not your life becoming like a whole like penultimate episode of a season of a TV show. Like out of nowhere when your life is going so good. Oh no, the past.
It was surreal. Like I kind of looked out the window and it looked different outside.
for context, audience, we were talking about which New Girl character are we, and I think we know who Jess is now because literally New Girl begins the pilot episode. She gets broken up with her boyfriend, then she has to find the apartment that leads to everyone else. I think you're officially Jess, my guy. Your ex comes back around.
Yeah, whimsy.
No, but I mean, legitimately, here's the thing. Like, kind of like what you said, right? Your life's headed in a certain trajectory. It's headed down a certain path. You hold no ill will, but you also don't really feel like bringing, going down that route again with this person.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's definitely an avenue to like amicably say that and respect that. And that person, I'm pretty sure, will respect where you're coming from. I also think it's fucking wild after 2 years to just send this full summary, because that takes. Listen, you write a letter, that's different than a drunk text out of nowhere.
It's not out of character for the person.
Yeah. That's different than a drunk text out of nowhere that we all wish we didn't send. Of like, blah blah blah, I never should have. This person was like, here, let me like write in pen, cursive, I'm guessing, stamp that shit, fold it up, lick, puts it in like the post office, right? That's fucking wild. So they've taken a long time to really think it through. Mm-hmm. There's at least some validation there, I imagine, from an ego standpoint.
Yeah. For context, this person has been a teacher for a long time, and my entire life I've always been, I'll never be a teacher, and it was wild that I was dating a teacher. That was notable enough in itself. After the breakup, I became a teacher myself, and that got mentioned in there, and it was supportive towards that. That felt good, because, I don't know, teaching is a very thankless job, so getting thanks from anybody feels good. Right. They said they came to Freeport about a month ago.
Oh.
Didn't hit you up?
No. Just drove by the old places just to check it out, see how things were. So they were in Freeport a month and a half ago, however long it took for the letter to get here.
You think they were scoping you out, stalking you?
I don't know. I've thought through in my mind, like, what if I ran into them randomly in public, or like they go to concerts too. So I've had the thought, like, what if I'm at a concert and I run into them? But yeah, that was, I guess, close to happening if I just happened to be out and about on the right day, right time.
In their universe, they're like in that part of the rom-com where they're really longing for the ex, and they're like standing outside your house but not going in, just staring, like watching you have a great life. That's probably what they did a month ago.
And I've said it before that or I've thought it before. I've probably said it before. I think me and this person would have been much better off as friends the whole time. I don't think that a couple, that being partners, was the best dynamic between us. I actually kind of think if we were like the significant other of two best friends, you know how like you're dating someone and then they hang out with their friend and their friend's dating someone, so you end up with this like not even parasocial, it is a social, but like I think like that situation we would have like thrived better. So I'm definitely open to an amicable route, but you also can't ignore that it was romantic for a significant period of time.
That was going to be my next question was if, because you mentioned you didn't want to pick your life up and move 2 hours away, but what if they pick their life up and move here?
Oh, plot twist.
But you just kind of said you weren't interested, so.
It's not. I'm not 100% against dating this person again. I am hesitant. I feel like it'd be easier if I was 100% stay away from me or 100% get back in my life. I'm kind of in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Life's oftentimes more complicated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That is.
Well, the benefit of a letter is that, you know, you at least got some time to really think about your thoughts and stuff like that before sending it out, you know.
With the current trend of my life, I will forget about this for 2 months and then remember it and be like, "Oh, it's too late to respond to that." That is me right now. I'll get around to that soon. 3 weeks fly by and whatever happened to?
It must have been stuck at the post office. That's all. Got lost.
That's what I'm saying. You make that excuse like, fuck. Sorry, it didn't stamp right or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was another question I had was, do you guys have like each other blocked on like social media, or was this like a deliberate
Immediately
choice?
after the breakup, they blocked me on everything. And I haven't thought about this in a while, but it kind of brought it back up. There wasn't a reason given at the breakup. Like, things weren't going great. That was more personal stuff with me, but we weren't doing great, and it came out of nowhere blindsided. It was not that surprising when we broke up. It wasn't that we were treating each other poorly. It's just we weren't thriving being together more so.
Mm-hmm.
Guess like we weren't able to be our best selves together in that situation. And so there was never a reason given for why we broke up specifically. I can guess. I know generally what was going on at that time, and so I could assume it was one thing or another mainly. And they also never really explained why they blocked me, so I've just been kind of figuring that they wanted space, figuring that they wanted to, like, find who they are again. But those are all guesses and assumptions. There was never anything, like, clear-cut, so I've had 2 years of being able to take a stab at why all these things happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
How does it feel to be like the main character? How does it feel to be the main character of a season 2 show? You know, the beginning, the pilot is you moving back home after the breakup, and then your life's going well, and then again, here comes the season finale of season 2, and then your ex is coming back.
Yeah.
What's if you could title the name of your show, what's it called?
Can it be a swear word?
I don't give a shit. It's on HBO. You can swear.
I don't even know. And to be like completely honest, things were dark leading up to the breakup, just with me personally. And it's not like we broke up, I moved back to Freeport, and the clouds parted and the sun started to shine again. That happened on a small scale. Like, things were severe back then, and now I wouldn't call them severe, but I'm still not doing amazing. Like, I don't know, like, things are slightly better, but I'm definitely not, like, out of the woods, like, mental health-wise or anything.
Listen, it's season 2. You still got plenty of growth to go.
Waiting on that season 3.
Right. No,
If that would come anytime now, that'd be
Then
great.
season 4, the dark turn comes. Season 3, like, turn into the version of yourself you always wanted to be. Season 4, you do something like fucked up.
I think season 3 you start the gayfinity group. You know.
Yeah. Well, after 2024 or after 2028.
Good point. Good point. That can be the series finale. You finally start the gayfinity group. Yeah, that's kind of wild circumstances again. Like, Yeah, how do you even confront that? It's a range of emotions, and like you said, not even though it's not necessarily that person's fault. You were in your own headspace with those dark times. I'd imagine it's kind of like a trauma response, even like just interacting with that person in any capacity or thinking about them. It just brings up, you're just going all the way back into that mood and that headspace from that time period.
Yeah, and there's always the question of like, am I looking back at it with rose-colored glasses, or am I only thinking of the negative parts? I don't know. I feel like with me, especially as a person, I can't really remember. Like thinking back to college, I can remember events that happened. I can remember things I did, but to think back to like, was I doing okay? I have no clue. Like, I can't remember emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's exactly emotions, but like that stuff fades away quick for me, memory-wise. So I don't even have a super clear picture of that relationship. I know the big ticket items, but for day to day, it's hard to like put myself back in that space.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
It's all a blur.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I could give you some. We're working through this together. Obviously, we're just giving our opinions on stuff, but see it through. Whatever feels right, go with your gut, right? If right now you're feeling like, nah, I could go down this road again, but I don't want to, then do what you got to do. But if you feel like there's potential there, see that through possibly too. I'm a hopeless romantic in a way. I love my rom-coms and such, so I'm not opposed to the Hail Mary play and stuff like that. At the same time, that's based on and predicated on what's best for both parties. Speaking of which, like, spoilers for the series finale of Friends, everyone, but when a certain people get together and stuff like that, half of the fan base is like, oh, they made this big grand gesture and they shouldn't have ended up together just because that person made a huge grand gesture to the other. And I'm like, clearly they wanted to be together. So the sacrifices that they had to make, because one person was moving away, like a cliche, like a lot of series finales. And then the other was like, don't go. Okay, I'm not going to go, even though it's like supposed to be like a new opportunity.
Okay.
And it's like
The airport running to the gate speech.
quite literally an airport. Yeah. But like that's the thing is like clearly they wanted to be together, and it's gonna be okay just because they didn't take ultimately the job in France. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah. If you haven't been able to notice, audience, your boy loves himself some film and TV in the entertainment sphere. So I make a lot of TV and film references. Speaking of which,
Great
Speaking of
segue.
which,
Speaking of which, we're trying to figure out like what can we watch together, because we're so spliced apart in terms of culturally where we're at with certain things. Like I haven't seen a lick of Game of Thrones.
me neither.
Just absolutely wild.
If
Yeah.
you'd like us to watch a TV show and share our thoughts about it, maybe come through the experience of us experiencing it for the first time, let us know in the comments. Shout out a series.
If you've made it this far.
Oh,
Hi.
you're gonna say that? You're gonna say that every episode of like, hey, if you haven't dropped off yet,
Yeah.
said this is some fuck shit.
It's an hour in, let's be honest. There's like 4 people.
Hi, everyone's relatives. Hi, mom, dad,
Yeah.
sisters, brothers. Hello.
Yeah.
What up? For the second time.
Hello, my ex that I sent this link to instead of writing that letter.
What?
The
Hey,
answer is question
start this podcast at 48 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yep.
Did we have another topic, potentially TV related?
They may just have to tune into part 2 for that.
Oh, okay. I'm down.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it. We'll catch you next time. I'm just saying, I was just looking your direction. Sorry. Always
You can
remember,
look at me,
guys.
that's fine.
What's up is down. What's right is left. But there's always gonna be some fun times ahead. So we'll see you soon.
Deuces.
Bye, guys.
Bazinga.